Hi, welcome to Iconoclasting with Sarah Smith. Today we have Hazel Jones joining the podcast. Hi, Hazel.
Hey, Sarah.
I love your name, by the way.
Thank you.
And so Hazel and I met in a book club, a virtual book club called Booked Up Founders. It's amazing. Highly recommend. Hazel is the owner of Hazel Jones Copywriting. So Hazel, do you want to tell us more about your work and your company? And then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a copywriter and full service email marketer for female founders who have been in business and have an established, validated offer. And I mainly do website copy, obviously email marketing, email copy, and I also can run the back end of email service providers to take that completely off my client's plate. And then the big thing that I've also been doing has been within the website copy, SEO and AEO, with also like blog strategy that incorporates SEO and AEO.
Okay, I have two questions for you already. Will you please explain SEO and AEO? And I think some people will probably know SEO, but AEO is definitely a new term.
That's the newer one.
I think it's also called, is it called GEO too? There's a lot going on there.
There's a lot of different acronyms. I think the easiest way to remember them is like there's stuff you do for Google, and that's SEO, that's search engine optimization. Not just Google, but like search engines. So you can optimize your website and your online presence. So then that way you show up in search engines. And now that we have a lot more, the AI landscape has exploded. People use AI now more than ever to search for things. There's AI summaries, even with Google and other search engines. Even your email has AI summaries now if you use Gmail. So AEO is answer engine optimization. So these are your things like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity. So what you can do with your online presence is you can make your website, for example, have a better chance of showing up when people search in those answer engines and LLMs.
That's so cool. And that's something I'm definitely experimenting with more and more because it's such a big part of my business of AI just in general. And I'm also just really interested in it. So that's great. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think you said, this is my other question. I think you said the email service provider. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Because I don't know exactly, tell me more about that service because I don't know what that means.
Email service providers, or ESPs for short, they're basically, so your inbox provider is like Gmail, Yahoo. That's like what you use in your actual inbox. And then your email service provider is what you use to send out marketing emails if you have a business. So things like Flowdesk, MailChimp.
MailerLite is the one I generally use.
That's your email service provider.
Okay, so ESP does not stand for extrasensory perception or whatever it was.
It probably could. I think in the marketing world, it stands for email service provider, but I'm sure it stands for other things, different contexts.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So how long have you been in business?
I have been in business, I think it'll be almost 3 years now. So I'm still pretty new in the business scheme of things, but 3 years since I've been doing my own business and freelancing full time.
Yeah. And so I've seen you've been freelancing for a while, I think. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit because did you go to school for copywriting? What did you do in school? What happened there?
So I did not go to school for copywriting. Funnily enough, I actually started my major as a business major in school because I was like, well, I have no idea what I want to do. When you're 18, 19, you go into college.
I did that too.
I have no idea what I want to do. So I figured, well, whatever I figure out what I want to do, I'll turn it into a business. And so then I started my first week majoring in business. And then when I saw all of the classes, particularly all of the math and statistic classes that I had to take for that major, really turned me off. And I was like, ew, I don't want to take that. And so I completely switched from business to international relations because I was very interested in different cultures and languages. I took Arabic in college, and that was like a big interest of mine at that time. And yeah, so very, very different than copywriting and business school.
That's fascinating. So is there even a major for copywriting? It has to be just like English or marketing, right? I would imagine.
In certain business schools, there might be. I went to Florida International University, and I didn't even know what copywriting was at that time, so I wouldn't have even known to look. But I don't think there's really a ton of like majors and degrees you can get in copywriting. A lot of people who get into copywriting went to school for creative writing, English, or things like that, just because they like writing. But I think it's something you learn from experience, and we can get into how I got into copywriting if you want to.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. I was just thinking about it. Like, I know people that do copywriting, and then those people have also written books and such.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting of like, how does one actually get into that? Because I've never really thought about that. So, and then you like are now making this career and business out of it. And I was looking at your LinkedIn, just to learn a little bit more about you. And I saw that you were like a sales associate at Abercrombie and Fitch.
Yes. That was my very first big girl job in high school. I actually got recruited. Well, I was at the mall with a couple of my friends, and I guess they needed people, and they asked all of us if we wanted to work there part-time. And my two friends said no, but I was like, yeah, like I want a job. I want money. So I did that for like a couple years.
Yeah. And I don't know if we're about the same age or not. I think you're probably younger than I am, but that was something that they definitely did in the 2000s, I guess.
Yeah.
Early
working
2000s.
there was why I think I could see why they had a bunch of big lawsuits recently. Because I actually got hired. They don't call you a sales associate. They called you a floor model. So then that way they could like not hire people or not put people on the floor that they didn't think fit their standards, which is really messed up.
There's definitely a lot around like the brand. And this was especially true of like Hollister and those kind of things. So
and they're owned by the same company. So
yeah, that makes sense. I would have been much more of a fit to be a floor model for Hot Topic when I was a kid. So there's no way.
I could see it.
Yeah, there's no way that would have been a thing with my super dark eyeliner all around, you know?
Oh my gosh, were you an emo kid?
Yes, I was more punk / goth / emo / all the things. I was talking I was talking to somebody, and it was like, and when I was in high school, it was a very big deal that you had like your brand, for lack of a better word, right?
Yeah.
Now it's like, I just listened to whatever, and I was definitely one of those alt kids that, you know, was singing Pennywise.
That's awesome.
Fuck authority as often as I could.
Yeah.
And I enjoy playing it around my husband too, as often as I can. So yeah, that was me. And so now I own a business and I'm getting an MBA, which is very weird. And
that's amazing. I didn't know you're in school right now.
I am at, University of Illinois, for anybody who can see it. And
amazing.
Yeah, it's kicking my ass, but it's super great. And I was an English major in undergrad, and it was one of the things where I'm like, maybe I should have gone into copywriting.
You'd be good at it if you're...
Thank you.
If you like writing, I think you'd be good at it.
Yeah, but it's funny is like, and that's the conversation I had with one of my professors was like, every English majors are amazing, but we just don't know how to market ourselves.
Yeah,
and that was
or like
part
what
of
you can do with that degree.
Yeah, and that kind of was the impetus for starting this entire podcast, right? Of like, we've had really windy, non-linear, non-traditional pathways, and how are we mucking about and doing something different?
I'm curious, what prompted you to want to go back for another degree?
I love learning. And after this, we're going to get back to you and stop flipping the interview script, but I do love it. I love learning. I wanted to go back for a while, but I was like, I keep thinking about doing industrial organization psychology.
Mm-hmm.
That was one, but I looked at this and I was like, let me just look at getting an MBA because as an English major, I don't have a lot of like that hands-on financial acumen and stuff that I really want
Mm-hmm.
and really need. And I found that when I was in my last like corporate role, that the financial aspect was something that I really wanted to bone up on, but I didn't have a lot of opportunity to do it. And I was thinking like, I really love operations. I love making organizations run better. And so that's part of what I do now in my business is like, we glow up your operations. We do all of these things where it's actually making you, you know, do things without having to spend a ton of money or being able to
Mm-hmm.
reinvest that money into something that matters. That's
Yeah.
the really important part. And so getting that financial acumen was a big part of it. And just being able to like speak the language more
Mm-hmm.
of the business side, that was really important to me. And so I actually didn't think I was going to be able to get into University of Illinois. And my husband said, yeah, just do it. He was like, it might be more expensive and it's still a very cost effective program. It's
Mm-hmm.
an online MBA. And so I was looking at something else fully online. And he was like, just apply to
Go
University
for
of
it.
Illinois. You might get in. So I did, and I got in.
That's awesome.
Yeah, with my husband's support. So he's like my greatest backer, my greatest supporter. And it's amazing. And
That's
I love him
awesome.
for that. Yeah. So yeah, it was really that of like that more hands-on understanding of what, business means. And I'm
Yeah.
actually you can specialize in two different areas. And instead of doing entrepreneurship, which is kind of funny, I'm focusing on mergers and acquisitions and
Mm.
data analysis because I think those are going to be like the big ones for what I want to ultimately do.
Yeah, I could see that being more relevant to like the business you want to run.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially with the enterprise experience I have, that really helps too.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Definitely.
So flipping it back to you, which is where the spotlight should be, what, so like, where did you go with your international affairs
Mm-hmm.
degree and how did you get there?
Yeah. So with my international relations degree, I was kind of, as every young, like late stage teenager, early 20s person, I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. Through college and then kind of halfway through, I knew I wanted to do something that I felt helped people. I knew I wanted to do something that made me feel like I was making a positive impact on the world. And so based on a lot of exploration and just trying different things and going to like these career events where they'd have like different booths and just trying to figure stuff out, I found that at the time, what sounded like it would be a good fit for me was being an FBI agent. And so that was what I kind of planned to do after college. And I eventually wanted to become an agent, but you start off, they don't hire baby agents. So I went in as an analyst. And then, so that's kind of which isn't super related to international relations, but that's where I ended up after college. And I worked there for about 5 years ish. I went in with rose colored glasses, and I think experiencing just bureaucracy in general really
The government does bureaucracy well.
yeah, put a damper on like what I thought I could have, where I thought I could have positive impact. And it wasn't a good fit for me overall. And so I decided to leave and kind of on my way out, I found this course, which is actually how I got into copywriting, which
Interesting.
was called Write Your Way to Freedom. And it teaches you how to be a copywriter, like the skill of copywriting, and also how to be a freelancer and get your own clients. And so I transitioned out of full-time employment with having an employer and started working part-time, just like a part-time job to supplement income while I was building up my client base as a copywriter.
That's a crazy leap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how much better I feel working for myself. I just really I don't think my personality and just like how I like to be very creative. I like to do things my own way. And it works
Yeah.
really well for me to have ultimate freedom over who I work with. I can work with people who align with my values. I can say no to people who are not a good fit. I get to choose what I work on. So that's huge for me, and when and where. You get to choose everything as your own boss,
Yeah.
which can be a double-edged sword, but
Oh my gosh, it really is. But it's also like, it is very freeing to just be in that spot where it's like, yes, I can do this, or I can say no. And I've had that happen before where it's like, I've had people want to potentially work with me, and it's happened where it's like, I enjoy money, but
right.
we don't align from our
Yes,
values perspective or how we want to work with one another. And so it gets really important of like establishing values early on so that they become
it
your
does.
guiding principle.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And one
Hmm.
thing that I heard that one of my copy coaches told me a long time ago that really stuck with me, and I don't think he made it up, but he heard it somewhere. Yes, you need money. I need money, but I don't need your money. So,
Yes.
there's so many other opportunities to make money. If something is not a good fit, you can listen to your gut on that.
Hmm. No, I love that. And that's so true. Like, I don't need your money. I'm going to have
Yeah.
to remember that one. That's
I need
great.
money, but I don't necessarily need your money. I can get it
Yes,
from
that's
somebody else. Yeah,
yeah. And I mean, I think, and you're very conscious of like, you help female founders, like,
I
and
do. Yeah.
you've made your decision of like, this is who I want to help. And I love
Yeah.
that.
Yep. And when I first started, I decided to niche down in the outdoor industry because
Hmm.
I was just trying to think of like, well, what do I like to do? I like to do outdoorsy things. I like to, do stuff like that. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll just niche in the outdoor industry. And then it surprisingly or not surprisingly was a super male dominated industry.
That
And
is interesting.
it's a really male dominated industry. And a lot of there was some like really awesome people that I worked with when I niched in that industry, but then just like trying to find clients in that industry was pretty hard because a lot of them are very bootstrapped, like they're doing everything in house and doing everything themselves. And there was also a lot of like bro energy that I didn't like. And so I'm like, I think I really enjoy working with women. Like the clients that I had that were women were always my favorite. And so, it was so much easier for me to work with them and like almost effortless to just like get along and, you know, work together. And so was part of the reason why I wanted to switch to working with exclusively female founders, because I do want to help, I don't know what the right wording is, but like squeeze that gap or like close the gap of the amount of successful women-owned businesses versus male-owned businesses, because there's still a gap there. And so I am really passionate about uplifting and helping other women to be successful in their own business so then they can go and pay it forward too.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, I'm in a lot of those women first and women based sectors, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like is the word of, where, yeah. So it's not very often that I work with men,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I do agree. I did not know that the outdoor space would be so male dominated. That's
It's
fascinating.
very male dominated and it's
Hmm.
hard. I've heard just from people I've talked to in the industry that it's harder for women to get funding too in that
Interesting.
industry from not sponsors, investors, from investors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
If it is very, like, if you're saying it's very tech bro, then yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Mhm.
And so did you have any like role models of people in your family, close family, friends of like people doing entrepreneurship, founding companies, or like how did you even know this was an option?
That's a really good question because I feel like a lot of people probably don't have family members who
Hmm.
have been in business, and I didn't either. I don't have any family members or friends in my circle. Now I do because I've been in business for a while and you meet other, business owners. But when I started, I didn't know a single soul who ran their own business or who
Hmm.
freelanced or who decided to go out on their own and do their own thing. everybody was doing the traditional, you have a job, you work 9 to 5, and then you have your weekends and you have your paid leave. So it was very, very new to me and it was very different. I've actually had to do a lot of mindset work trying to unlearn the employee mindset because it's so ingrained in us just as a culture. But yeah, I didn't have the first exposure I got to it was through that course that I was talking about earlier, that taught you how to freelance and how to be a copywriter.
So tell me more. I'm dying to know what you mean by like getting out of the employee mindset and into like the entrepreneur or founder mindset. Because
Yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about, but I want to make it a little bit clearer because you're right. It is a mindset that you have to get out of.
Yeah.
And it's something that if I'm right, I think it's probably something they kind of teach you throughout school as well.
Mm-hmm. So for me personally, it can mean like a lot of different things depending on, what you're struggling with. But for me, it was kind of the biggest thing at first was realizing that my money isn't tied to my time. So this was one of the biggest shifts that I had to make early on was like, you don't have to be at your computer working there 8 hours a day. I don't even get stuff done for all 8 hours. Like if I'm sitting at the computer, like we just don't have that much focus energy per day.
Right.
So your money is not tied to your time. You have a lot more opportunity to make more money when you don't do that, when you don't tie your money to your time. And so there's a lot of shoulds that are always swimming around in my head. Like you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And then when I explored those a little bit further, it was just stuff that made sense in a traditional, corporate setting and a traditional job, but not as a business owner and not as a freelancer as someone who's, going out and finding my own clients and you're really setting the boundaries. You can set boundaries and not worry about, like, you don't have to worry about being fired, really. Like, you're in control. There's a lot of also taking charge, too. That's something, because some people, at first, it kind of felt like, oh, your client is your boss. But they're not. They're a partner.
Yeah.
You're partnering with them and you're providing them a service, and they're looking at you as another business owner and as an expert in what you do. So the relationship dynamic is really different. And it's something I really enjoy. And that was also another thing early on that I had to like shift my mindset with, things that I struggled with in the beginning.
Yeah. And so that's a really good segue into this. What would you say is like the top thing that you would tell somebody who's in your shoes or looking to become a solopreneur or build a team or, just found something? What would you tell them?
I would tell them that it's probably going to take you years. It's not going to be overnight. The overnight successes are 6 months and I'm making 10K stories are the exception. And it's going to take a long time to build up your client base or build up your customer base. So it took me 2 years to kind of start seeing my efforts that I put in start to pay off. So if you stick with it for long enough, eventually it's going to pay off, but it's going to take a lot longer than you think it is. And you're not failing because it's not working in a short amount of time. Like this is actually what I wish more people talked about in business that I think would have helped me a lot if I heard it earlier on, is that things take years. They do not take months.
Yeah. And that's a really good point too. And that's a very good reminder for a lot of people is like, keep working, keep trudging because it will come together, but it does take time and it takes consistency. So it's like, building that muscle.
Yeah, consistency is key. And I think a skill that if you want to start your own business or you're kind of in the beginning stages of starting your business, you kind of do have to have a certain level of risk tolerance to be able to weather that part where you're not seeing the success of your efforts yet.
Yes. Yeah. Right. For sure. Well, I really appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Where can people find you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm just Hazel Jones Copywriting on LinkedIn. I post pretty regularly on there, so you can come hang out
You do?
and say hello. And then I also have my website, hazeljonescopywriting.com.
Amazing. And of course, we'll link everything in the show notes. But this was wonderful, Hazel. I'm so glad to talk with you.
Yeah, me too. We had a great combo. I loved it.
Yes. Yes, me too. All right. We will talk soon.
Okay, bye.